Hello, I'm Ryan Reyes.
And I'm Ricky Macias.
And for now, we are Un Poquito Podcast. Un Poquito, exploring Latin culture little by little. Thank you for coming back. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to watch to the end. That helps us out. Leave a comment, leave a like, hit the bell notification. As Dominic says, comments make you sexy. All that makes you sexy. You're sexy, and you know it. If you're listening on the audio for Spotify or Apple or anywhere that you get your audio podcast, rate and review us. Subscribe there. 5 stars, please. And if you'd like to support us, we have a Discord. It's free. It's a great way to interact with us and fellow fans. And we have a Patreon. Starting as low as $2 a month, you get access to ad-free content, early content, and bonus content. So be sure to check that out because we have some new episodes on the Patreon that are pretty snazzy. Anyway, today we are joined by a guest host, Ricky Macias. Hello, Ricky.
Hello.
A lot of people probably remember me from the old podcast.
Yeah.
Or at least a friend of yours.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not the same person.
We're not the same person at all. No.
The good old Chicano Batman.
Yeah, Chicano Batman. I heard he's in talks with you guys.
Yeah. We've been talking.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll show up today?
Probably not today. I mean,
damn.
Yeah.
Anyway. How you been, man?
I've been pretty good. Just been grinding like everybody else and enjoying stuff. Yeah.
Grinding, what does that mean?
Oh, just day job shit. Like trying to get all that in order. Like I don't know. I got a new job for the first time in a long time.
What are you doing for work?
It's like manufacturing stuff. It's like, does anyone know what CNC machines are? The people that know. If you know, you know. It's like big machineries and stuff, and then we make like parts for like aerospace, medical, and dental things.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I've been in the industry forever, but I changed jobs and like.
Right, you're like with a new company.
With a new company, settling in, and it's going good so far.
Yeah, my dad, when I was younger, did one of those machines. I forget what the part was for. It was literally just a steel cube with like a hole in it. I think it was meant to be like a giant like bolt or something.
Okay.
But he would get like what do you call it? Like not broken ones, but ones that were the machine messed up.
Scrap parts, yeah.
Yeah, and he'd bring them home, and a lot of times like the thing would jerk as it was drilling, so make a little Mickey Mouse squares. It was fun.
Oh yeah. It's that's the fun of the job, because like if you ever try to tell people what you do, it's just like people's faces just go blank. Like I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
But if you bring a bad piece of material home, they have a better idea.
I don't remember if it was a movie or show, but there was a character where that was their job, but they're like, well, I make planes, I make airplanes. I'm like, oh, like you design them? It's like, no.
Yeah.
I make like parts that go in the airplane.
Yeah, you immediately have to bring people down on the expectation.
Right? And then it's like, oh, so you like work on the engine? I'm like, kinda. I make the joint. Like, I make the bolts.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. It literally can be that way sometimes.
Yeah, my dad's a grinder kind of a person. He had not a lot, but he had different jobs growing up, and he's that kind of guy that'll just like anything, whatever you give him, he'll do like the absolute most to learn that field. And like, the thing he's been doing the last, I mean, that's how he was like when I was growing up, but I want to say the last like 27, so the last like 17 years now, he's done trucking mostly.
Cool.
Which was pretty fun. I remember my favorite story, because it starts off like very delightful and then ends kind of gross, is sometimes he'd like sneak me on the truck.
Yeah.
And he doesn't work for them anymore, so I can tell the story. And we'd go on road trips essentially. And I could usually only last like 2 weeks before I like missed video games and a bed.
That's pretty good.
Because they just had like that cot. Have you ever been in a?
No, but I've always been curious.
Yeah. So there's different kinds. Obviously, some of them just have the 2 front seats. For the longer runs, they have a cot and like a living space in the back. It's essentially like, just slightly bigger than a closet. Mm-hmm. It's like Harry Potter's bed back there. And then there's these dudes that own their own trucks, like privately owned trucks, and it's like a trailer in the truck. Like they have a functioning bathroom and a kitchen and a sink. It's bonkers. I say that a lot.
Yeah.
But so
good cartoon.
My dad had like the smaller one that just had the cots in the back and like a small closet. And one day we're passing through, I want to say Utah. It's somewhere in the Midwest. And it's like 1 a.m, and my dad wakes me up and he's like, "Look at this. Look what's happening." And we start seeing these little like stars appear. And I'm like, "Oh." And then we realize, oh, that's not stars. They're like showing up on the window. Just these glowing specks. And it looks like magical, like fairy dust, like just like stars start appearing on the window. And then what we realize is happening is we're driving through a field of fireflies and they're just exploding onto the window shield. And I'm like, oh, that's sad. It looks pretty though.
Sad magic.
And then in the morning the glow wears off because they're dead. And so it just looks like someone like sneezed on his window. It's so gross.
Totally thought you were talking about snow at first.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought was happening.
Yeah,
was like, I've never actually seen fallen. I've seen snow, never seen fallen snow.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I
mean, such a Southern California thing to say is like, I've touched slush. Like, I've never touched powdery snow before.
I've like scraped the hail off of my mom's windshield to make a single snowball.
A really hurty one.
Yeah, it's like full of rocks and sticks. What about you, Josh? You ever see fallen snow?
We had the Great Rancho Cucamonga blizzard of 2007.
That's
I
real
forgot
thing?
about that.
It just snowed
Yeah,
one
there's certain
day in like 2007. We were
Really?
at school and we were like, what is going on?
I forgot
And
about
just
that.
like
Yeah.
it was not really, it was like rain, but then it turned into like ice. But it lasted like an hour. But throwing snow at school.
Yeah.
I think that was like
Rancho
at that
Cucamonga.
time, 2007. I would have been living in Colton still, so we only got like the brush of that. So for like 20 minutes, we didn't even get rain. We just got the hail, and it was hailing for like a straight 20 minutes. It was.
Damn.
That was how I found out what hail was. I was like, that's fucking terrifying. It was like golf balls just
Oh, yeah.
smashing into my mom's car. But then we had a snowball fight, so that was fun.
Yeah. As far as like soft snow, like Christmassy kind of a thing, no, not really.
I have this like kind of personal joke about like you can, if you ever see a very like a large brown man just frolicking in snow, like if it's Edward Scissorhands, that dude's from California.
It's so true. Because I mean, I'd probably regret it as soon as I get really cold, but I want to experience that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ever build a snowman? I've gone to the mountains before.
No, I don't think so. I think the most experience I've had in the mountains was like when they like grind ice and call it snow. Have they done that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's like the most.
You're talking about like a snow machine.
Yeah, a snow
Apparently-
machine. There you go. That thing.
Those are like not difficult to do, but it's a lot more complicated than like just crushing ice and like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't work like a wood chipper. It's like a very specific kind of grinder.
Really?
Yeah, because you can't just crush ice and throw it, because then you're just shooting. Then
Hail.
you're just shooting hail at people. Yeah.
Oh, there's more thought to this. It probably just scrapes the crap out of the top.
Yeah, it's like scraping it softly first, and then like it's going through a system of coolant fans or something.
Damn. How complicated. Let's just bioengineer the weather. Let's do that. That sounds simpler.
I've only ever made 2 snowmen in my life, but the first one or the second time was perfect. It was like spherical. I was like heating my hands so that I could like sculpt the snow. So it's like
I
it
can
didn't just look
definitely
like,
see you doing that.
yeah. And I put all this work into it, and then a dad and his toddler fucking ran through it with the sled,
Oh wow.
and I like lost my shit. And he was like, "Well, why are you building it in front of the sled tracks?" And then we looked down, and then we looked back up at him, and I'm like, "You went off the sled track. Like, this isn't the sled track." It was next to the sled track, but
Yeah.
he like he wasn't paying attention to where he was aiming because he was trying to make it fun for his daughter, which I appreciate. And that's why, as a 12-year-old, I didn't try to fight this as a grown adult. But he like legit aimed for the ramp to make it more fun for her. Didn't realize what he was doing. Went over the sledding track and right into my snowman.
Wow, good dad, bad citizen.
And then he tried to gaslight me. That son of a bitch.
And there's really no aiming with a sled.
No, yeah, but he was like trying to use because they built walls so that they didn't run into people, and he was trying to go up the walls as he was like sliding.
He's trying to surf.
Yeah.
Always trying to be cool. I've been sledding once in my life, and there was no aiming involved. It was pure inertia and speed.
That's
yeah,
terrifying.
we used to. When I was like really little, that was like a thing my dad tried to do. Last week we were talking about traditions. I forgot about this, but that was something like my dad's family, I think, would try to do every year. Is like we would take our cousins and go up sledding. And I think at first, so I've always been afraid of falling, and the hill was really steep, so you would be aiming downward. And so I tried it like twice, and then I gave up forever, and then just like never sled after that.
The closest thing we had to sledding was like my siblings would get like pieces of like reclaimed wood or leftover wood of my dad's jobs and build a go-kart out of like screws and planks of wood.
Like a derby cart?
Kinda. And then they would like attach those grocery cart wheels on the bottom, and we had this like rickety alley that we lived right next to, and they would just stack up like boxes of trash and shit and just like crash it into it. And then the whole time you're in there, there's like screws sticking out of the wood, so you're like avoiding like damage while you're gonna crash into a pile of junk.
It's like if Homer built it.
Yes, exactly. I still have like a memory of like getting cut on screws.
That's so funny. My dad did stuff like that. Like one time when we were living in Colton, the winds in California, like when you get close to the desert, the winds are fucking insane. Like I've heard, I've seen on the news like trucks toppled over from the wind.
Yeah.
It's bonkers. But the wind knocked down literally all three sides of our backyard fence.
Wow.
And some in the lawn that was right behind us had tall trees, and one of the younger ones fell, so it broke pieces of the fence. And so that year, my grandmother or someone in my family had bought me and my little brother. We had so much context. We had bunk beds for like 2 years, and then someone bought us twin beds. So my dad decided to take all of the long boards off the bunk bed, dismantle it completely, and like build a fence out of our bunk bed.
Interesting.
I thought that was cool.
Like I used to sleep there.
Well, that's another thing that because me and Dominic have explored a lot of different topics involving like growing up Latino American, but not that we have the same experience, but a lot of our stories intertwine each other because we're siblings and we grew up together. Mm-hmm. So I've been curious, like what are I want to go over some like past topics, not all of them,
sure,
and just like get your perspective on those. One thing that came up recently was like holiday traditions.
Yeah.
Like did you ever experience like the stereotypical ones, like the cookies and milk, or like having to go to bed right before midnight?
No, in some ways the opposite. Like I don't know that cookies and milk were specifically a thing for us. Like we'd have like café de olla, conchas, or like even coffee late at night for Christmas. But we would stay up till 12 on Christmas Eve and then open presents. That's
something that we talked about last time, is like a Latino thing. Dominic like makes it fun. I don't think he necessarily came up with the joke, but it's like a funny concept with the Latinos. That like we open our presents at midnight instead. Because we have to work in the morning, so instead of waking up and spending the day opening presents, we open our presents and then we do shit the next day.
Yeah. And like we would bend that tradition sometimes because some of us would just not make it to 12, so it'd be like 9 or 10. You open one.
The exact same thing with me and especially like with the younger. So I grew up predominantly with my mom's side of the family.
Yeah.
So it was me, my brothers, and then like 3 cousins. So the ages split very similarly. So it was like 4 big kids, 4 little kids.
Yeah, yeah.
And so especially like with us little kids, every year we got more and more impatient. So what started
Yes,
with
exactly.
it started with like, okay, you can open 1 before midnight and then you got to wait. And then eventually became, okay, we're just going to see how long you can wait.
Yeah, that's usually what it turned into for us as we got older and the younger kids got older.
Yeah.
Because you guys are 4 brothers.
Yes.
We talk. I made sure to clarify because I know there's at least 4 of you. So I'm number 8 out of 10.
Damn.
And there's 5 boys and 5 girls. I know. You had the correct reaction.
That's a lot of kids.
Yeah. It's just the usual reaction. So I'm number 8 out of 10, and I have a younger brother and younger sister under me.
What's the age difference between the oldest and youngest?
It's about like 19 or 20 years.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a whole generation,
Ooh, yeah.
essentially between.
It's a lot of people.
Yeah, so it's like, it's crazy. Like, don't do that.
Just like regular dinner is like a family event for me.
Yeah.
I'm one of 2.
Yeah.
I have a little sister, and that's it.
Yeah, because I've had people come into our life like when I've dated someone that's had a very small family, and they come into my family, it's like initial like it's just like getting you like making sure you're not overwhelmed. Like it's like it's a lot, and they're just like, when do I talk? And I was like, it's like double dutch. You just jump in and out when you see it. Like it's not. There's no like. There's etiquette, but there's no etiquette. Like typical etiquette. Like you just jump in and jump out. Like someone else will start talking.
Yeah, surprisingly, I actually like dealt with that a little bit growing up. Like, obviously 4 kids isn't necessarily. I mean, it's a little bit like based on your perspective.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You know, purview. Because I don't want to say, especially as someone who can't have like baby, that 4 kids is not a lot.
Yeah.
But especially like in Latino communities, it's not like a lot as far as what's considered a lot of kids in one family.
Yeah, at least back then.
Yeah, but a lot of like the kids my age only had like 1 sibling, either older or younger. So for like the kids that I was around, it was considered a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially like that it was all boys.
Yeah.
But I experienced that a lot too, like having to introduce people to like 3 siblings.
Yeah.
And then also I lived with my cousins.
And I went to that too. There was a point where a bunch of me and my siblings lived with my cousins.
Yeah. But I like always just assume like that's just, I had that comparison. Like I always thought that wasn't like, it was surprising to me that people were surprised that I had like 3 siblings.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't sound like my dad's the middle child of 7 children. Like that doesn't sound like a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it was really weird that's how other people saw me.
Yeah. Because it's like I grew up in Monrovia. I'll say it. It's like it's not a big city.
Yeah.
It's like near Pasadena.
Right.
But it's not a big city. So my family was like a whole thing in our school district. Like,
wow.
Oh, you're a Macias. Like, and like,
funny.
Oh, you look like a Macias.
You're the Doyles.
Yeah, old Doyle rules. Just as trashy at times. We're that poor. But like, oh, you're a Macias. Sometimes they would like clock us visually,
Right.
or like hear one of our laughters, and they're like, "You're a Macias."
That's funny.
Because if when we laugh, like it's obnoxious for some of us in my family, but like a cackle even. So it was like we were a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like what it's like. I had this PE teacher in middle school, and he would be like Macias, and he had a lot of us in his classes over the years. He's like, "How many after you?" Like 2 more. He's like, "All right." And he would always ask.
And then he's like, and then I'm done.
And then I'm done. No more of you.
You
guys?
could like mark his career span by just your family members.
That's his retirement, is waiting for the 10th one.
That's so funny.
Can you do your family laugh?
No, not fake.
Oh, you can't. Yeah,
I
it
can't
has to
fake
be
it.
real.
I think you've seen me laugh enough. Like I can laugh, but the cackle
Yeah. I was wondering
that's
if
in
you
my
could, like,
family
simulate
is
it for
rare
us.
for me. It's rare for me. I've seen too much stand up, and I face too much pain. So I can do my like giggle, like my little cackle here, but like my cackle, which you've heard sometimes, I think,
Yeah.
is like a few times a year. Like that's how rare it is for me. But my sister, the one right above me, she cackles on the daily. So I'll try to record her, I guess.
Hello. I just wanted to take a moment to shout out our sponsor, LegacyTeasAndSpices.com. It's a shop run by our mother, Angel Lamesqua, and it's a great source for teas, spices, and even sugars. We also just introduced a lot of great new flavors, including Frita Cola, Cafe con Leche, and Chicano Chai. So be sure to check those out and use coupon code UP20 on your next purchase to get 20% off. No, yeah, I definitely don't have that. I don't know if it's because I'm autistic, but I have like a very specific laugh compared to my family. It's loud and kind of obnoxious. But because of that, like, I've had to learn alternative ways of laughing. And I've also just naturally developed, like, you know what I mean? Like, I have a laugh, and then I have a cackle, and then I have a chuckle, and then I have, like, a delighted, like, I don't want to say a guffaw, but I don't know how else to explain it.
like
I don't know how else to explain it. I know one way to explain it, but it's really fucking annoying. So not when I'm out loud laughing, but when something mildly amuses me, like, you know, how people go, "Ha, that's funny."
Yeah.
I laugh like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah.
Like
I'm down with it.
Something just like catches my attention. I'm like, oh, that was, instead of being like, "Ha," I'm like, and that's it. Yeah. Which is frustrating to be fat and laugh like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, but it makes you more lovable. It's so ridiculous.
Everything everyone loves about me, I find so disdaining.
Oh, to be human. Yeah. So it's like, I forgot exactly what we're talking about, but yeah, 8 out of 10. We'd open Christmas presents late at night, and like, yeah, that was the thing. Oh, we'd also like, related to Christmas, around Christmas time, my mom to this day makes rompope when it comes to December. Like,
what is that?
Rompope is eggnog, but like,
right.
I don't know if there's any special difference for the Mexican version of eggnog, but she makes it, and I've helped her make it, and it's like there's critical points in making it where you could just ruin the whole batch easily.
Yeah, like, I think with festive drinks in general, it's all so particular.
Yeah.
Because you're incorporating spices. A lot of them incorporate
Dairy
eggs.
and eggs.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, so she'd always make rompope and then like hand out bottles. Like,
it's like making a liquid souffle.
Yeah, and it's delicious. Like people have gotten weird about it. Like, it's that good.
I can't remember. I feel like a relative used to make, I think it was that.
Yeah.
I just knew it as eggnog.
The only
But I love
difference is that it's made with only egg yolks, and it adds slivered almonds.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so
Make
I don't
stick
even
in
know if
my
we use
ass.
the almonds thing, but yeah, she makes it. Like, we've had like people, like siblings, exes, nieces, or nephews be like, "Hey, is your mom making rompope this year?" And we're like, "We're not even in your family anymore." Like, like they're reaching out for it.
That's
Like,
so
it's kind of funny. They're willing to pay, but it's just like, oh, this is good, I guess.
I
Like,
feel like that's proper. There's always like one dish that every Latino, like the grandmother or
Yeah,
the mother
yeah.
makes well. Like, my dad's mom is an amazing cook, and they're one of those households where, like, no matter how much all the adults try to get her to stop,
yeah.
she'll spend the entire morning well into the afternoon
Oh,
cooking
yeah.
for the family.
Oh yeah.
Like, we were visiting last year, and the day that we showed up to her house, she had already prepped like an entire breakfast for us, including like she made tamales, she made pancakes, she made oatmeal, just like so
Yeah.
much food. And then she was still cooking to make lunch.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, "Sit down."
Yeah. And they refuse.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And we love them for it.
No,
Yeah.
for sure. But it's also like, man, like you
Take it
really
easy.
don't have to do that
Right?
much.
Like, we could go to McDonald's, Grandma.
She's like, mm-mm.
But she makes like the best oatmeal, and I finally figured out why. But I don't like. My dad doesn't like it because he thinks I'm overgeneralizing like his childhood.
What do you mean?
But so, and I will admit, like, I have a bluntness to me when I figure something out. But it's not because I'm trying to belittle the thing. It's because I enjoy figuring out how things are made.
Oh, for sure.
And so, but essentially, the best way to explain it without giving away her secrets is that she makes oatmeal as if it's horchata.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I feel like some people can kind of figure out sort of what that means, but she makes a very sweet, very smooth oatmeal, and it's insane. Like it's looking back, it's the reason I liked oatmeal as a kid and then didn't like oatmeal as an adult.
Yeah.
Because we used to visit Texas a lot every year, so I
Yeah.
was eating her oatmeal, and then as an adult, like you get instant oatmeal or you
Yeah,
get like the
like,
shit
what
they
is
make at
this?
cafeterias, and
Yeah.
it's like gross.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. Yeah, she makes like arroz con leche. She'll make that. She'll make. I'm trying to think what else. Mi café de olla, arroz con leche. She'll make oatmeal stuff, but it's not probably not like that. That sounds really good.
Yeah. I don't know how else to explain it without just taking
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to Texas. It's phenomenal. If I could make it myself, I'd make it every
Would
day.
she make? Oh, you mentioned tamales because we'll do that too.
I was gonna ask, like, do you do Christmas tamales? Like,
We almost every year.
Right.
Like we haven't done it this year, but we might. Yeah, but we've
is
always
it
made
like
tamales.
everyone shows up the night before and then you have Christmas tamales, or is it like a couple days before?
Sometimes it's usually from what I remember, it's a couple days before. Like we'll just get like a whole rotation of people. Like we'll line up a table and like you scoop, you spread, you
Right.
fold, you know, and so we'll all take turns, or whoever can do what they can, and we'll just make a lot of tamales. Like we'll do like we've done like the mole ones, but apparently like my mom's mole isn't what people usually think because there's so many moles. Like
Yeah, I feel
there's
like it
like
ranges.
a lot of them, more than people even Latinos are aware of.
Because sometimes mole comes out like if I had mole that's very thick
Yeah.
and you can taste the like unintentional sweetness of it.
Yeah.
Because it incorporates cacao, but it's not necessarily meant to be sweet.
Yeah, but that's a version of mole. Like,
Yeah,
we
and
don't even
then-
use that.
Other versions are very loose and essentially like cocoa flavored salsa.
Yeah, and ours are none of that.
Yeah,
Ours are like almost like a curry,
that sounds good.
and it's like a red mole, and it's almost spicy even depending on the chiles used or how spicy they were.
Right.
And like I thought that was normal, and then I went to like a friend's house one time in like high school, and his mom was like, I made tamales, and I was like, oh, she's like, it's mole. I'm like, oh, I'll try it, and I've never had a sweet one until like I was 18, and I had it, and I'm like, because I was not expecting
Right?
like a chocolatey sweet tamale. Like I was not like, oh, it's good.
So that does bring up like similar to me, you didn't really experience like American Christian like Christmas traditions, but did you ever practice any like Mexican traditions? Like, did you do Three Kings Day?
We did it a little bit. So it's get a little real, but I think my dad was like the heavy like religious influence in our family,
Right.
and we did that stuff partly because of him. And
Right.
then when he passed away, like we didn't do that as much because that's more like really Catholic, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we were very much Catholic. Like my dad would like I'll tell you how poor we were. There were so many of us. He would make us do the Stations of the Cross plays. All the children would be like doing Stations of the Cross in the yard for him. It's crazy.
That's bonkers.
That's how Catholic we were kind of raised at first. So we did do the Three Kings, and we like the bread and the baby and
Right.
all that jazz. So we did do that, but as we got older, like we just weren't as strict.
Yeah. I've only actually recently looked into. My mom actually brought it up because it's in Spanish. It's known as Dia de los Reyes.
Yeah.
Like Day of Kings. And my last name is Reyes, and she thought that was fun, so she brought it up when we were doing the old podcast. But I found out what like King's bread is, and I'm surprised that fruitcake ever became a thing when you have King's bread.
Oh,
Because
right.
fruitcakes were created by pagans. But I think it was supposed to be like a roughage cake to something that didn't need a lot of preservable ingredients.
Oh.
So I do understand it, but I don't get anyone that actually enjoys fruitcake. Especially that King's bread exists. It's like an identical thing, but it's like softer. It's actual like bread
Yeah, yeah.
bread. And it's so much sweeter. Like Mexicans are like so much better at candying fruit than other like.
Oh, yeah.
I've tried so many different European candy fruits, and I don't mean to diss Europe, but I mean a little bit. There's no flavor to their candied fruits. I
Yeah.
don't get why. Or they're like gummies are like. I hate Swedish fish. Have you had Swedish? I know they're
Yeah.
not literally Swedish, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the Mexican ones are like just so much better. I can't explain it. The
Mhm.
texture is kind of like a sweet bell pepper. It doesn't taste like bell pepper,
Yeah.
but it looks like pepper and it feels like pepper.
Yeah.
And it's just substantially Mexicans do it better every time. I don't know why.
It's delicious. I mean, the only thing I'll say is conchas are not that good. Specifically, they're
Look,
usually,
I know you're filling in for Dominic.
Yeah.
They're, oh, am I touching? I'm sorry.
Dominic hates
He hates conchas. Well, like if you catch them very fresh, like if you catch them like at 5 a.m. and you eat them with coffee, very good.
I'm down from like 5 days later, dog. As long as
5 days later,
well, as long as you're bagging. That's the thing. You have to bag them. You have to put them in a container, keep them soft. It's things
maybe that's
people
what
are
I'm doing
leaving
wrong.
them out, and then they get hardened after a day. 'Cause you left it out.
okay. But
Still eating that bad boy.
I've seen. There was a dude that liked him hard, and because he would like dip him in the coffee.
that I kind of get. Like if you got a big enough coffee mug to dunk them in there, okay, cool. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been. I enjoy coffee, but I've always been like a coffee adjacent person. I enjoyed coffee because I could dip stuff in it.
Yeah.
Like I got into coffee as a little kid because my grandmother on my mom's side loved those coconut like morning cookies.
Oh.
I don't know what brand they are. I don't know what they're called, but I know that they're made by Marianella.
Uh-huh.
But they're just like coconut flavored biscuits. And I don't know why I loved them so much with coffee. And then as I got older, I like started just developing a palate for it. Like I got into espressos and cappuccinos, and
Oh yeah.
then I was that weird kid that was like I couldn't just have black coffee. I had to like do stuff to it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think like any other like additional Christmas stuff. I don't know. Sometimes it just feels normal, so you don't know that like that's a thing.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, other than the American kind of American Christmas stuff we would do is like one of our uncles would dress up as like Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And it was just like you kind of knew it was him, but you know.
I do remember. I think they tried to incorporate that, but so this is purely based on what I remember, and sometimes I get stuff wrong. On my mom's side, it's mostly women, and the only one that was like the right kind of like size and voice palette to be Santa was my Uncle Robert.
Uh-huh.
And usually we celebrate Christmas at his house, but he was working at In-N-Out, so he didn't get home until like right before we did presents, and then we would go to bed. So instead, what they would do, I remember at first, was they would try to get us to at least go to like the room, like the bedroom, even if we weren't going to bed, and then they would just like do bells and like stomp and pretend someone was
Oh
watching.
yeah.
But you know, then the whole like staying up, or like that went away at the same time that the earlier present time like
Exactly.
grew.
Like it takes a lot of energy to like do Santa stuff every year, and it's like just let them open the presents.
My favorite reference to it, I think it was from the Santa Claus, but it was a thing like they were judging him on how he ate the cookies. Like, you can't just eat the whole cookie, you fucking idiot. You gotta leave some behind. It's about proving Santa exists. I thought that was funny.
I remember that.
I remember when we started living at my uncle's house, he had a chimney,
Right.
and they had it on, and one way to prove that like Santa had come by was the fire was out, and I was like, that's proof enough. Like I actually fell for it when I was little. Like wow, and I was like thinking like the logistics, like oh, so like he needs good pants for that. Like if he's
Right.
gonna sit out the fire, he needs like better pants than I think he has. Like
Well, that's what the boots are for.
That's what
Right.
the boots are. Oh, I'm assuming it's all ass. Oh, you can stomp out fires, right? Okay.
It was funny because I do remember like believing in Santa for a long time, but I also just I think it's a funny concept to look back and realize like when you're the kid that believes in Santa, as long as you're not the last one to believe in Santa,
Oh yeah.
it's always funny to see like at that time you're not the dumb one. The one that doesn't believe in him is the one that's stupid. Like,
Yeah.
fucking look at this idiot. Doesn't
Yeah.
think who's gonna give us those presents? Our mom?
Yeah.
Our mom doesn't do shit but make me eat vegetables. Like that's the mentality when you're a kid.
Good cover. Yeah, I definitely kind of didn't. I didn't believe it for that long.
Yeah.
But I feel like one of my nieces was that. I don't want to out her, but she like we were like, you ever get to a certain age and like, well, I don't even know if you have nieces and nephews, but like some people relate to this, where one of you're all still collectively lying to one niece or nephew, and
Yeah.
like, the rest of them know. It's like at what point is this abuse?
I mean, that's how it was for me. I only had a little sister.
Yeah,
So once I knew, she was the only one who didn't know, you know?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was
How
just in on it.
how old do you think she got till she found out?
Probably too old. Probably
Like
like 12.
12 starts. 12 was the number for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, probably about that. My parents weren't good at hiding it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Mine was completely on accident. I think I keep telling this story, but it's a very small story. But essentially, like one year, as my brothers would help my mom rap, and as we got older and they became teenagers, they wanted to like do stuff. If it wasn't like the holiday, they wanted to be out with friends and everything. And so she needed help with that stuff, and I was getting to that age. So when I was like 8 or 9, I was the one helping my mom rap for the first year, and my job was to write from Santa on all the
You're like,
name tags. And I was like, she'd be like, I need you to write from Santa in cursive, and I was like, why? And she was like, what do you mean? So we could put them on the presents. I'm like, but doesn't Santa do that? And then she was like, wait a minute, what? Like the realization that I still believed right until then.
oh.
That was so funny. But no, it was so good. That was also like my favorite year because I tell this joke a lot. So that year I got a gift that seemed like if you don't know the context, it seemed like the kind of gift like a shitty like stepfather would give you, or like a deadbeat dad in a Christmas movie would give you at the last minute because he forgot to go Christmas shopping. But the actual story is actually very touching and sweet. So around that time, I started getting into drawing, and my mom wanted to support me, so she started putting me in classes to learn cartoon drawing and comic and like basic comic paneling. And that year, she had gotten me some sketchbooks first, but I already had the how-to books.
Yeah.
She had already got me that for my birthday. And my birthday is only 3 months before Christmas. So for Christmas, she wanted to just give me supplies, but she didn't know at the time where to go for art supplies, because you have to like look into it, and they don't. She didn't just want to give me like Crayola stuff from like Walmart. She wanted to give me like
Yeah.
a lot of supplies. So she bought like Office Max supplies. Like I got a block of printer paper and a bunch of very nice fine point pens and like Sharpies from like
yeah.
like an office Sharpies. And it was absolutely, I loved it. I used every
Yeah,
single one of
yeah.
those papers. Like it was very helpful. But looking back, like if someone heard that I got office supplies for Christmas,
Oh yeah.
they would have. It was like that SpongeBob episode.
Yeah.
I think my brothers like teased me a little bit when that episode came out because that's the first thing they thought of was that's what I got for Christmas.
Yeah, because like my girlfriend's nieces gave us their Christmas list, right?
Yeah.
Their mom gave it to us. It's for Santa, but I guess we're Santa this year. And they have some typical kid items. They're like what's cool with kids right now. Like Beanie Boos is like a big thing.
Beanie Boos?
Yeah, they're like these stuffed animals or something. I'll look it up. I have to
Oh,
Google
I think they're like buy Beanie Babies, but they're smaller and they're supposed to be like
really-
specifically adorable, like big
Yeah,
eyes.
they're very adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
And-
I had a girlfriend gave me one of those. It's Winnie
Yeah.
the Pooh. Just a ball.
Yeah. They're like really cute, really
They
they
are.
feel so soft. And they have like Beanie Boos on the list, right? Very typical. But they also asked for boxes and tape for Christmas presents. Like legit. I don't think they're trying to run away.
Like
But
they're not asking you for wrapping supplies.
no,
like
they're
someone-
literally like they want boxes and like tape and
That's
stuff.
funny. It would be so dope if like, because I did this when I was a kid. If they're like building like a costume out of that.
They very crafty. Like one of them like does like weirdly intricate origami for their age.
Wow.
They're like 8 or 9 or 9 and 10. Like she was getting hired at school by other kids to make like origami, like
That's
strips
dope.
of paper, like animals for other kids. She's like, oh yeah, I'm done with like. She's like, it's a phase. Like I'm done making money off that. And then, like I think that's kind of where this is headed because they're like real crafty for their age. Like I don't know if it's for their age.
She's gonna
but-
build like one of those fucking like street auto. What is it? Transformers that you see where they
That'd
bend
be-
their knees and
that
their
would be
arms.
so.
And it's a little car.
That'd be so wild. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it looks like you're a bad person if you buy them boxes and like tape and stuff, but that might be the best present.
Yeah,
they have
but
this
when
year.
it's what they asked for,
Yeah.
it's like no, it's actually really touching. I promise.
I promise.
That's so funny.
Sure, maybe I reutilized moving boxes and gave them that and saved money, but they loved it.
That's so fun. Were you ever like crafty as a kid?
I don't think so. The most I did was draw comic books as a kid, which isn't entirely unique. But my ideas were even less unique, and I would rip off like video game characters,
Right.
like any young kid would do, like make up their own storylines, but just heavily rip off a game series they like.
Yeah, it's like an episode of Scooby Doo, but for some reason there's this really buff character all of a sudden that has their name.
Yes, exactly. Like I remember making a comic book strip called Dash, and it was a ripoff of Crash Bandicoot. But he had like a claw arm and like a metal eye, like a cyborg eye, and it's because a scientist like did experiments on him, and he's trying to get back at the scientist.
That sounds dope as fuck.
Not a bad storyline,
I feel like
but I
that
did
is
rip off.
I feel like that's the storyline they eventually used to Crash Bandicoot. There's a like a mutant monster one where he takes Crash's DNA and turns it into clones,
Really?
and then turns the clones into monsters.
Wow, I should get
And
back
one of
into that
them's a
game
cyborg.
series. Oh shit! I'm going to be suing Naughty Dog for that IP theft, but I should get back into that series because I really loved Crash Bandicoot. But
Yeah.
so that's the most crafty stuff I would do is like make comic book strips.
I feel like the only thing that doesn't hold up about that game is when you would crash into the boxes
Mhm.
and then the Jamaican mask would say something
Uh-huh.
in a language that I'm now realizing might be offensive.
Yeah, probably. It's probably not real words, but we would make up words for it.
Let's hope it's not real. So this is something I've recently discovered, and it's not super prevalent in every autistic person, but it's a phenomena. I think it's technically a disorder, but it's a thing called echolalia,
Yeah.
which is essentially, it's not the same thing as Tourette's, but it's similar in a sense of like it's a reactionary thing.
Mhm.
So with Tourette's, it's a lot more involuntary. As far as I understand it, they don't necessarily know where the source is. It's just kind of like a misfiring synopsis. But that's like my basic understanding because I don't have it. I don't know anyone who has it. I just have met people online and
Yeah.
learned basic shit. With echolalia, it's similar in that like we repeat stuff, and
Yeah.
Is
it also something like they're processing?
maybe it's so like sometimes it can be a noise, sometimes it can be
Yeah,
a phrase like from a show,
because my nephew has that.
and it's not
Yeah.
always necessarily in context. Like sometimes it's directly in response to something.
Yeah.
Like I do that where I think in like movie quotes, and so someone will say something and it reminds me of a like what's an example? I used to do this to Dominic all the time, and I have a running joke that every time Dominic says, "Did you know?" and then I'll cut him off and say, "When it snows, your eyes become." But I think that's something technically different. But so like, or another thing is like when I'm walking and a car honks, I just go meep meep
Yeah.
in response to it. So it's like it is technically involuntary, but it's not in the same. It's not like a tick. It's not a
Yeah.
twitch. It's just a brain's natural response to something. Shit, I have to backtrack to why I brought this up. What was he saying before this?
We brought up echolalia because of
I repeated the
yeah.
Crash Bandicoot sound.
So when I would like run into stuff, I would yell out that I don't even remember what the sound is, but I would do
That's
that.
fun. Yeah. Maybe problematic now, but I can tell that was a lot of fun.
That's why I'm like looking back. I was like 7 when I did this.
If anyone got mad at a kid for doing that, I would be like, man, come on. It's from a video game.
Yeah.
If anything, it's their fault, not his.
I actually do that all the time.
Yeah.
Repeat sounds and repeat things that people say. If someone says something kind of weird, I almost have to fight it to not be rude like in a store.
Yeah.
But I always thought it was just from playing Grand Theft Auto and hearing people being like, ain't no thing but a chicken wing.
Yeah.
And then me wanting to say that kind of thing. Like, and I just think of real life, like this kind of, thing like that. So that's interesting. I didn't know there was a name for that. And I didn't know it was part of,
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Internet says it's involuntary though.
Yeah. So it's not. It is involuntary, but I was trying to make a distinction between that and Tourette's in the sense that it's like
They're closely.
You're not intentionally doing it. It's just like as soon as the thing happens, your brain just responds.
Yeah.
So it's involuntary in the sense that you're not choosing to do that on purpose. It's just like what popped in your head. But it's not necessarily like a tic, which is associated with Tourette's.
Because I used to mimic my little sister.
Yeah.
She would say something and I'd be like, "Bleh, bleh, bleh," or just like repeat her words back to her. And I felt like that just got embedded. And I would just do that to people.
Right,
just because someone said something weird and I want to make fun of them.
Yeah, like sometimes like someone with a heavy accent will say a word and I'm not trying to make fun of them, but my brain likes the way they said that, so I repeat it how they said it.
Oh yeah, my nephew's. Yeah, one of my nephews has autism, like what people expect autism to be,
right?
And he has a lot of echolalia, and like so we would just have like we would say it with him eventually, like oh yeah, like it's in our head now, like this is part of like the routine or like the interactions and stuff like that. One thing that's like transcended into like our vernacular as a family, like we don't do it as much anymore. We'd say no, okay, because like anytime he didn't want something, he's like no, okay, like done, like to cut off like the pressure of like do this, and he's like no, okay, and then now like that's a thing we do.
Yeah.
We're like that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I'm just remembering like there is a thing that I do nowadays. So there's 2 things that have come from my echolalia. One of them is like sometimes I won't say it out loud. Well, this is why I think that the catchphrase thing might be separate, because sometimes I do just like say a word randomly because I like like something that my little brother kind of ingrained in me is he saw a video about how Mel Gibson tried to memorize the Scottish accent or get into the Scottish accent when he was doing William Wallace, and he would do an impression of Sean Connery saying goulash. So it's like goulash, and then that's the Scottish accent. So my little brother loves that story and that word, so he would say it a lot. And so like once in a while I'll be by myself and I'll be bored, and it's like my brain needs something to do, so I'll just start saying words, and one of them is goulash. Goulash.
That's kind of William Wallace is kind of Christmassy, right?
Another thing I do is it's just like a response thing. But I don't think people seem to notice, especially now that everyone knows I beatbox, is I just start doing my noises. Like, one thing I do a lot is like, and it's just like my brain is bored, and so it just comes out of me. I did want to ask, so now that we're kind of on the topic of neurodivergency, well, I was curious because we've talked about it, but I've never like, I don't know if it's...
Yeah.
I want you to be comfortable. Yeah. But do you know if you have any sort of divergencies?
I've never had anything investigated or diagnosed. I think currently at the most, I think I identify a little bit with it. But I think some of that stuff is normal that people do.
Right.
Like, not normal. You know what I mean? Like typical behavior of like observing people and how people socialize and learning what the rules are because there were things when I was younger that I was confused about, but maybe I just wasn't properly socialized, even though I had a huge family.
That's always possible, and that's a thing too that like can kind of muddy the waters for people that don't look into it or don't have to interact with it every day.
Yeah.
Neurotypical people, is that a lot of the sort of effects and like for a lack of better phrasing, because I can't think of the word right now, like side effects of these disorders
Yeah.
are based on things that everyone experiences,
Yeah.
or they're similar to things that everyone experiences, but it's not an evolution of that, but it's like a I'm trying to think. I'm trying to figure out like the right word in my brain for what it is. It's like a what's the word? Overemphasized version of it.
Yes.
You know.
Well, that's any like divergence, right? Like not the same thing, but like being bipolar or something, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes autistic people get diagnosed with like bipolar disorder.
Yeah, because there's
not
so
accurate.
many like expansive symptoms in the criteria.
Yeah.
They can be misdiagnosed as other things.
Yeah, and it's like because it is an accentuation of something that is there's like a baseline of what is expected to be typical, but any of these things, any of these illnesses or disorders or neurodivergencies are just exaggerations of typical human behavior, right?
Right.
And it's like I think that's part of why it's confusing, because like mental illness and autism is in my family,
Right.
so it's like. From what because I've been on like autistic TikTok a lot lately, and ADHD specifically TikTok.
Yeah.
Like I've been learning about this, and it's like some of this stuff is genetic, but it's not necessarily genetic if I understand it correctly.
So there is a genetic component but genetics aren't the primary causality.
Yeah, and that's something I've understood. And so it's like it's something I've thought about. One of my brothers is, I believe, investigating in that in himself.
Right.
Because one of my nephews is very much so, and then now I'm like, now that we know a lot more, it's just interesting to just keep an open mind about like, oh, there's a whole like literally a spectrum, and you have a joke about that.
Yeah.
Of it, and it's like, there's things I identify with, like, until I got a lot older, was very confused about why people were upset about certain social rules.
Yeah.
Because if you're not hurting somebody, I don't know why people are upset. When I was younger, like, if someone didn't explain why they're upset and they expected me to apologize, I would refuse to apologize. When I was a kid, because it was like I remember, I don't know, it's kind of a weird situation. I remember like. A music teacher got mad at us when we were like in like second grade, because we were like, like boys put their finger through the zipper,
Yeah.
and they make each other laugh with that. Like I got in trouble for doing that because we were like all sitting down in music class, and I was like trying to do it to my friends, and I got in trouble for it, and it was like she saw and she was like really offended, and like but no one explained to me.
Right.
Why she was mad. I was just like confused. Like I was just a kid, and I was like, this looks funny.
Yeah.
And I was trying to make my friends. I wasn't going around to like.
Yeah, you weren't like
or,
actually.
Yeah. And I remember like there's moments like that where I was just more confused and like upset that I'm like, they were just saying just apologize, and I was like, but then I'm lying.
Right.
And I was like confused and upset by that, and like. That's just like one dumb moment, but it's like, I remember like running into issues of like, oh, you can't just go over there. And I'm like, but I'm on I'm on school. Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. So I don't know if that's typical or that's just like an introverted thing.
I mean, there's a lot that does go into it. And it's also like one thing that often has to be explained, but it helps to explain because, of the initial misunderstanding is, like you referenced the spectrum, and people always assume that the spectrum is a sort of grading scale of like quote unquote how autistic someone is.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works.
Yeah.
There's no people experience identical symptoms. They experience like completely different symptoms.
Yeah.
And the severity of each symptom can range from person to person.
Yeah.
So there are people that have more debilitating symptoms versus people that don't have those symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the same disorder regardless. Like, no one is more or less autistic. You know, like people see me, and this goes back into the conversation about the redundancy of using high and low functioning as terminology. First of all, in reference to autism, those terms were coined by someone who associated with the Nazi Party.
Yeah.
They weren't like they weren't themselves an identified like Nazi member, but they did work for them.
The
like
Asperger?
they had work that Johann Asperger. But I digress. So the reason I bring that up is because based on that very that's the thing too, is like it's an arbitrary scale, because whether or not you're high or low functioning or identified as depends entirely on the person that assesses you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like I might be considered higher functioning because I can vocalize my thoughts and assess things a lot more calmly than I used to, and like I know how to do basic tasks and problem solving, but I didn't always. I had a hard time with that when I was a kid. Like there'd be things I was naturally good at. Like when I was really young, I was naturally good at math. I picked it up really quickly, and then as I got older, it started to confuse me. And one thing that was a big deal is like I'm okay talking now, but I had a sort of, I don't want to say that I had selective mutism, but I did not like meeting new people. I didn't like the concept of strangers in general, and so it was incredibly difficult for me to meet anybody. I'd have to have a conduit to like be in the middle of us.
Would that affect friendships?
Yeah, like
would you have an anchor friend?
Yes.
And then almost refuse to not be by their side?
Yeah, it was like there was maybe one or two people that I tolerated enough to like, and beyond that was too much for me. Like I didn't mind knowing people and like having friends.
Yeah, I
but
understand
usually
that.
like I'd have one like best friend, and that was the only person I chose to interact with.
Yes.
And even before that, like until I was maybe, I want to say, according to like my parents, until I was like 4, maybe 4.5, but at least 4, I didn't speak.
Yeah.
I didn't have like first words, and they didn't even realize that I was talking until one day I was just like singing along to. I started talking by singing to music, and so, but before that, it never communicated through talking. I was like, I had figured out how to get what I wanted from pointing and like, not grunting, but like, you know what I mean?
You had McDonald's menu communication?
Yeah, like, but there was, so the reason I believe that that didn't register with my family right away is because, one, at the time, especially with my minority groups, neurodivergency wasn't a well-known concept.
Yeah.
You had a lot of like misreported or misdiagnosed people of color who were either it was like the kids' diet, or they would grow out of it, or it was identified as something completely different than autism. So the numbers for people of color still are, but they were much, much lower when I was a child. And the other thing was that as a toddler, as far as like the what do you call them? Not the goalposts, but there's another name for them. The like certain points in their lives.
Percentile markers.
Yeah, I was like somewhat exceptional. Like I was potty trained a lot sooner than other children. I identified colors a lot sooner than other children. I like started walking a lot sooner than other children. And that was the thing, is like I couldn't talk, but I understood colors. I like memorized what my cup was from the kids' cups, and I'd get upset if anyone used it.
Yeah.
You know, I was seen as like a lot more intelligent as a toddler, and so it just didn't occur to them that I wasn't speaking. In my opinion.
Yeah, that's just a creative choice on his part.
And it wasn't until like much later that we learned about autism kind of as a family. A lot of it started with my mom. I often tell the story, like the school always assumed that there might be some disability, but they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And they like couldn't have me I don't remember why, but we had issues getting me assessed properly.
Yeah.
And so essentially we couldn't confirm it until like I hit high school.
Yeah.
And that's because what kind of drove us to do it was at that time I was learning about OCD and I thought I had it.
Yeah.
And eventually like I was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder. And at the same time, my family had seen the movie Temple. About
Temple Grandin.
Yeah, about
Yeah.
Temple Grandin. And when my mom started seeing how they like described the girl when she's younger, and she just started noticing a lot of similarities. And there was like one particular thing where I noticed something, I did small attention to detail that no one else picked up on. There's a scene where Temple's just staring at a chandelier, and I glanced at it. Everyone's watching the movie. I'm in the kitchen like making a sandwich, and I glance at the screen and I hear my mom go, "Why is she staring at the chandelier?" And I look up for like a split second, and then it cuts to the next shot, and I'm like, "Oh, there's a piece missing from the chandelier."
Uh-huh.
And they rewind it and they pause it and they count. They like counted the rows, and I was right.
Interesting.
And so those two things like pushed my mom and I to have I brought it up to my mom first about getting tested in general, and then
That's really interesting that you were able to arrive there for your age.
I'm very self-aware.
Yeah.
And then so
Do you think that's typical though among autistic people that they're very
honestly
in
no.
some ways?
In a lot of ways, I think at the time would be considered a later diagnosis, but now that you have so many adults that are getting late diagnosed,
Yeah.
I believe that now it'd be considered an exception to the common experience.
I see.
So that was kind of like my story with it. And I've recently noticed a lot of people are asking more questions. So I actually have a link in my link tree.
Yeah.
And we can probably talk more about this next week.
Is that the RADS test?
Yes. And that's something I like to recommend. It's a great associative one. I do want to explain more, but we're hitting that time.
Yeah.
So thank you again.
Thank you.
This has been a lot of fun, and I look forward to the next few episodes with Ricky. I hope you guys enjoy this and the next ones to come. If you made it this far, what did we start talking about? What's your favorite family weird thing about your family? How many siblings do you have?
Yeah.
What's a funny family fact? Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell, all that good stuff, and we will see. Oh yeah, as always, don't fly.
Boop, boop, boop.